we say, let's not celebrate the A graders.
Really?
Because then you're emphasizing the wrong thing.
และเมื่อพูดถึงสิงคโปร์คนไทยส่วนใหญ่ก็จะนึกถึงเรื่องการศึกษาหรือว่าการลงทุนในทุนมนุษย์เราจะพูดคุยกันว่าวันนี้ทำไมสิงคโปร์กำลังจะเปลี่ยนจากการเชิดชูยกย่องเด็กห้องคิงเรียนเก่งวิชาการอย่างเดียวไปสู่เด็กที่มีความสุขมีความเป็นมนุษย์เพิ่มมากขึ้นและสิ่งเหล่านี้กำลังจะเกิดขึ้นที่ประเทศไทยในปี 2027 ด้วยครับ
So I think for our SGIS, I would expect that all teachers would be doing some enhanced training with Principals Academy because we've got lots of experienced principals and teachers and heads of department. And I believe that when you have a group of very strong, credible people together, you can make magic.
The Secret Sauce
สวัสดีครับผมเคนนักครินทร์และนี่คือ The Secret Sauce
What's your secret
สนับสนุนโดย SGIS Singapore Global International School
ผมอยู่ที่สิงคโปร์นะครับและเมื่อพูดถึงสิงคโปร์คนไทยส่วนใหญ่ก็จะนึกถึงเรื่องการศึกษาหรือว่าการลงทุนในทุนมนุษย์ถึงขั้นมีคำกล่าวว่าสิงคโปร์เขาสร้างชาติด้วยการศึกษาภายในเวลา 60 กว่าปีเอกเท่านั้นนะครับข้างหลังผมคือป้ายของกระทรวงศึกษาธิการครับ Ministry of Education Molding the Future of Our Nation หรือว่าสร้างอนาคตเนี่ยเป็นเหมือนการหล่อเนาะออกมาเป็นอนาคตของชาติด้วยการศึกษานั่นเองคำถามคือเขาทำได้ยังไงเขาสร้างชาติจนมาถึงจุดนี้ได้อย่างไรและวันที่การศึกษาวันนี้โดน AI โดนภูมิรัฐศาสตร์โดนสิ่งแวดล้อมโดนอะไรต่างๆเข้ามาเปลี่ยนแปลงเขากำลังปรับตัวไปอย่างไรผมจะพูดคุยกับคนที่คลุกวงในเรียกว่าเป็นโปรดักต์ของระบบนี้อย่างแท้จริงก็คือดร.ลิม
If you look at it, molding the future is like shaping. So it comes with the understanding that whatever we do in the schools for the children, for the young people, they are the ones who are going to be impacting Singapore in the coming years. And those would be the next generation.
ถ้าจะมองย้อนกลับไปสิ่งที่น่าสนใจคือสิงคโปร์เนี่ยไม่มีทรัพยากรธรรมชาติหรือว่าสิ่งที่พระเจ้าให้มาเป็นเกาะเล็กๆประมาณภูเก็ตเองอะไม่ได้มีน้ำมันไม่ได้มีธรรมชาติที่สวยงามให้คนมาท่องเที่ยวได้ไม่ได้มีเหมืองแร่อะไรที่มันแอดวานซ์คือเขาไม่ได้มีอะไรเลยวันที่เขาเป็นเอกราชเนี่ยเขาต้องหาจุดแข็งให้กับตัวเองหรือใช้คำว่า national survival strategy คือกลยุทธ์ในการเอาตัวรอดหลายคนอาจจะเคยได้ยินว่าสิ่งที่เขาทำหนึ่งก็คือเขาทำเรื่องของการจะเป็นหับให้ได้ก็คือเขาต้องการmultinational company มาตั้งที่นี่ไม่ว่าจะเป็น financial hub หรือว่าเป็นหับเรื่องของการเทรดสินค้าเป็นหับหลายๆอย่างให้ได้ซึ่งถามว่าจะเป็นอย่างนั้นได้ยังไงถ้าเกิดคนมาตั้งโรงงานที่นี่มาตั้งเทรดหับที่นี่แต่คนของสิงคโปร์ไม่มี capability จะทำงานให้ก็คือไม่มีความรู้ความสามารถเพียงพอเนี่ยตายแน่นอนเพราะฉะนั้นสิงคโปร์ก็เลยมุ่งแต่วันนั้นเลยว่าเพราะฉะนั้นไม่มีทรัพยากรธรรมชาติสิ่งเดียวที่เขามีก็คือทรัพยากรบุคคล
Let me then say I've lived through the 4 key stages of the evolution of the education system in Singapore. I think the foresight of the government at that time was that education is the only way. We need to plug into the world economy. We need the MNCs to come here and set up their factories. But in order to attract them, we need to have the skilled labor to fill the factories because they're not going to import their people over here and we can't support that. So vocational training was key. Getting students to learn, to have literacy and numeracy is key. Getting students to believe that, they have to be physically fit, they have to serve, the country. For the guys, it will be through national service later on. They need to think of it as part of nation building. It's not for their own glorification. It's not for self-fulfillment. My story is actually quite typical of a lot of my peers. We grew up poor when Singapore was just newly independent. So when I was small and my mother was not very educated, she was a homemaker looking after 6 children. She would make us write a page of ABC a day and Chinese character. So I would say I attribute my early primary years to a mother who really, really wanted us to do well in school. So all of us did well in school and got into 5 girls, we got into the top girls' school in Singapore, all 5. But I think it's also because within the schools that were set up, teachers were dedicated because they also were part of that nation building group of people who knew that what they were doing at that time would be important for the children. Then I went on to junior college. I got a scholarship especially to do the humanities, which is what I like. And then we were given tutors from Oxford and Cambridge to especially prepare us for the Cambridge exams.
Oh.
And I got into Cambridge University on a government scholarship.
Wow.
And again, this is not an unusual phenomenon because a lot of my friends also got scholarships to study, either locally or abroad, because the government believed in talent development. When we return, we have to serve our bond. And that is a way in which we contribute to nation building in the various parts and our segments of Singapore, the Singapore engine, if you like. Yeah, so when I came back from Cambridge, I went to teacher training for a year. And after that, I was posted to a school. And from then on, it's, a career that's been tracked or fast-tracked, if you like.
ดร.ลิมเป็นใครเนี่ยโปรไฟล์เข้มข้นมากเลย เอาว่าเป็นตัวจริงที่สุดในวงการการศึกษา ผมคิดว่าน่าสนใจมากที่เราจะได้มาเรียนรู้ว่า เฮ้ย จากคนที่แบบเป็นโปรดักต์ของซิสเต็มนี้เลยอ่ะ เป็นประจักษ์พยานปากเอกเลยของระบบการศึกษาของสิงคโปร์ 60 ปีที่แล้วอ่ะ จนถึงวันนี้เนี่ยเขาสร้างชาติมาได้ยังไง
So the early survival stage saw us building a lot of schools. So it's like 3D printing, all the schools look the same, but they have to come up very quickly. So if you have the schools, where are the teachers? We don't have very many teachers because the habit of the Singaporeans at that time was that only very few go to school, especially English schools, if they want to serve the colonial government, right? So there were indigenous schools like Tamil schools, Malay schools, Chinese schools. So the government united them, set up a policy, and then very quickly try and hire as many people as possible. Where do they get the people? They go to the A-level exams hall in the last paper and they say, who wants to be a teacher? Sign up.
Really?
Okay, so once they sign up, they already start to teach in the schools in the morning and they go for teacher training in the afternoon.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that was how we very quickly have teachers to fill
Wow.
our schools.
ช่วงที่ 2 ก็คือเป็นช่วงเขาเรียกว่า efficiency driven ก็คือเริ่มมีประสิทธิภาพแล้ว ผมว่ายุคนี้เป็นยุคที่คนไทยจะคุ้นเคยมาก ก็คือเรียนเก่ง ระบบเป๊ะก็เป็นยุคเด็กเรียนเก่ง การเรียนคณิตศาสตร์ หรือว่าพวก STEM วิทยาศาสตร์ ก็เริ่มมาในยุคนั้น แล้วก็เรียนหนักมากนะ pressure สุดๆ ก็เป็นยุคที่สิงคโปร์ก็โดดเด่นขึ้นมาในเรื่องของการศึกษา สอบพิซ่านี่อันดับ 1 ตลอดนะ
And we actually inspected schools. By then, I was already then quickly put into the ministry. And I was actually in charge of the English language syllabus. And I would go to schools to see how teachers mark. So I'll go through textbooks. I will see how they teach and write a report. And there'll be a whole team that appraises a school. So if a school doesn't get a good appraisal, there'll be interventions, how to help. So this is how we raise standards. That is also the period where we saw teacher performance being formalized. That means every teacher would have a performance grade at the end of the year, and there'll be a performance bonus. And those who don't do well will have to be coached. And if they really are not able to, then they will have to leave the system.
Did you have anyone from the Western world to help you create this?
No, we did it all ourselves.
Really?
Yeah. Because
And where did you learn from?
in the 80s, our education system went through a period where we said, okay, to be efficient, we cannot let it be run by chance, right? So there was a very controversial policy, which is called streaming.
Streaming.
And streaming means, let's look at our cohort of students, right? Some of them fall out of the system because they can't catch up or they don't have the home support. If they're not ready to learn at that pace, let's put them in a different category. So we created a normal system, express system, and then later on normal tech as well for those who really are more vocational. So the syllabus, the teaching, the pace is all tailored to this. This is controversial because parents don't like their kids to be categorized, right? And it's very hard for a kid to get out of that, oh, I'm only in the normal stream. Although normal sounds normal, but it's not really normal, right? The express is the normal. But the efficient system was great for a while because we started ranking schools.
Okay.
right? Because there's a lot of miscommunication and also misperceptions that some schools are better than others. So when the government started ranking schools, they look at the exam outcomes of the school. And then you suddenly realize a school that I thought was very, very top or strong actually has not done better than a very normal school in the neighborhood, right? So it gives credence or credit to people who work really hard in standard schools. And then it let the public know that actually some of these schools are very good. Don't all sort of go fight for certain brand name schools. It gives you evidence. Right? It's evidence-based.
Based on exam scores.
Exam scores. So that's a very good phrase, yeah? Remember exam scores, because that period I would say, yes, exam scores matter a lot. But not now, because we've changed the narrative.
พอมายุคที่3เนี่ยอันนี้เริ่มเข้าประมาณเกือบเนี่ย90 2000แล้วก็เป็นยุคที่เขาเริ่มเห็นความสำคัญของ ability หรือความสามารถอื่นๆมากขึ้นนะครับยืดหยุ่นมากขึ้นแล้วยุคนี้ผมว่าถ้าใครเคยฟังลีกวนยูเนี่ยเขาก็เคยพูดประโยคประมาณนี้นะเขาบอกสิงคโปร์เนี่ยมันแข็งอะใช้คำนี้แล้วกันมันน่าเบื่อ
Better than Switzerland, no chewing gum, no smoking in air-conditioned places, no this, no that.No fun of a place to visit.
ยุคนั้นสิงคโปร์ก็เริ่มมีอาร์ตมิวเซียมเกิดขึ้นมารีนาเบย์แซนหรือว่าสถานที่ท่องเที่ยวที่เป็นแบบพักผ่อนหย่อนใจด้านครีเอทีฟด้านอาร์ตด้านกีฬาพวกนี้ก็เริ่มต้นขึ้นโรงเรียนเฉพาะทางด้านสปอร์ตก็เริ่มต้นขึ้นโรงเรียนเฉพาะทางด้านอาร์ตก็คือให้ความสำคัญกับอีกด้านหนึ่งแม้ว่าโอเคสเต็มก็ยังเป็นท็อปอยู่แต่ว่าเขาก็เริ่มเห็นความสำคัญของการศึกษาที่ยืดหยุ่นมากขึ้น
The third phase was the ability-driven stage. That was in the 90s when we say, we can't be giving the same diet to everybody in all the schools in Singapore, right? Because abilities are a little differing. Some of you may like sports, some of you may like art, some of you are better at sciences. Why do we say science, as a subject is better than music as a subject, right? So we started saying, let's have specialized schools so that those who are interested in sports and can help Singapore win some medals in the national, international competitions, why not, right? So we set up the Singapore Sports School, wonderful facilities, right? Huge swimming pools, tennis courts, table tennis, and all sorts of sports equipment, and also people who can deal with sports training. So that those who are interested in sports can do their training before and after school, but they will still do the IB, and they can still have an academic career after that. But that will be specialized, right? Because we can tailor their timetable according to when the competitions are and customize it according to the different sports. We set up SOTA, School of the Arts, because there are people who are musically inclined, who love visual arts, who love performing arts, filmmaking, why not? So that was set up and it was well subscribed to, and they still do the IB, DP as well as CP. And they have actually produced some very good people who've even won president's scholarships, gone into law, not necessarily dance or music or arts. And then we're at the Math and Science High School. And for people who are really interested in research and who really are so focused on math and science, you really don't want to pull them out to do things they don't like music and dance and arts and all, because they might have two left foot and all that. So that is ability-driven, to let people run as fast as they can and create peaks of excellence. Because the world needs diversity, right? And then we came to this stage when you look at geopolitics, right? The world is in a mess. We need Singaporeans to be able to value Singapore and not run away when there's trouble.or when war hits us. So what is the best way? The best way is to emphasize character and values education.
Character and values.
Yeah, so that's the fourth stage where we say education should be student-centered and values-driven.
แล้วก็ยุคที่ 4 คือยุคปัจจุบันก็คือเป็นยุคที่ AI เข้ามามีบทบาทสูงมากแล้วก็ geopolitics เข้ามามีบทบาทสูงมากทำให้เขาเห็นแล้วว่าโรงเรียนจะต้องเปลี่ยนแปลงตัวเอง well-being เป็นหัวใจสำคัญของเด็กเด็กจะมีประโยชน์อะไรถ้าเกิดว่าเขาเรียนเก่งแต่เขาไม่มีความสุข mental health เป็นสิ่งสำคัญอย่างยิ่งที่ทำให้เขาเรียนรู้ได้ตลอดชีวิตอะไรคือสิ่งที่ทำให้เด็กนั้นประสบความสำเร็จไม่ใช่แค่การเรียนแต่คือการเข้าสังคมเป็นการ connect กับคนได้เขาก็เริ่มเปลี่ยนหลักสูตรมาทางนี้
So this is the stage where we say, let's not celebrate the A graders. You know, after every exam, of course, principal happily says, these are our 10 A1 students, please go on stage, and we all clap. Now you can't do that, not allowed.
Really?
Because then you're emphasizing the wrong thing. What you want and what the newspapers will cover now would be students who have gone through adversity and still manage well, 7 A1s, or someone who had a physical disability and still get into like medical school or scholarship. So we want to show character. We want to show students who've been involved in projects that help the community. So these are the ones that we kind of tend to feature. And I would say currently it's reflected in a subject bending exercise, meaning let's not put a child as normal or express. The child might be good with English, but very bad with math because not interested or didn't have the foundation. So this child can do math, you know, at a lower standard than normal curriculum, but English could be at express, right? So you mix it up and you blur the lines between these categories. Then you're no longer labeling people. And schools are not allowed to publish their results, national results, anymore in the papers.
And we are
what
living
happens.
this
that's
stage.
era. Yeah. And the rhetoric now is all schools are good schools. So don't just hate for the ones which you think are academically strong. Yeah. It's the character and the values that you should exalt, not the result.
สิ่งที่ผมทึ่งก็คือแล้วผมก็ถามคุณลิมเนี่ยหลายรอบเรื่องนี้เพราะว่ามันเกิดขึ้นในเวลาไม่กี่ปีนะครับสิงคโปร์เนี่ยได้รับเอกราชช่วง 60 นะก็ประมาณ 60 กว่าปีเอง
How did you make it? I mean, how did you learn and unlearn? You know, in the past 20 years, exam scores is, you know, number one that people look at. But now you just said to me that please don't recognize them anymore. So I think what have you learned through?
So when you say you give me too much credit, right? Because I would say the Singapore government and those involved in planning for the country, they're very far-sighted. Okay, and that is possible because we have the same party since independence.
Okay.
So unlike countries where they can only work 5 years in advance or even 3 years, because 1 year is to establish yourself. The last year is forget it. I can't start anything new anymore. Right?
So the government is very stable.
Here it's very stable. So they build one upon the other. They don't change directions totally.
I see.
It's an evolution.
And they always foresee the future.
Yeah,
what's
there's
coming
always
next.
a lot of scanning of the environment. And what's good is that, in the 80s or early 90s, we came up with this idea of thinking schools, learning nations. And all the principals were put in little groups to discuss and to conceptualize and come up with solutions to interesting problems, right? And we also have a lot of inter-ministry groups. That means I've been involved in groups where I'm discussing with people from environment, from the army, from elsewhere, to look at inter-ministry issues.
Wow.
So there's a lot of brain work, I would say, when we deal with the future of Singapore and what we want to see happening and how we should then start thinking ahead.
Wow.
So the government is, I think, fairly good in drawing input from all over. Not that they would listen to everybody, right? Because in the end, somebody has to make that decision. The other thing is that our own government officials, they have their children in the Singapore schools because Singaporeans are not allowed to go to private schools or international schools, which means whatever policies they make, their own children will have to, in a way, live through, and they better make sure that it's good enough for them and that it is good and productive all around because they have their own personal sort of interests. They are invested in these. So again, that makes the system in a way very centralized, very cohesive.
Give me more example about the using of AI in the school. What role does it play in the school?
Good question. Because I just read an OECD report that says Singapore teachers are the most active users of AI in a school. And that was 2024. Now we're 2026. How much more, right? So I would say all teachers would have use and access to AI in our schools because we have something called the student learning space. Student learning space is created by the Ministry of Education, and in the past, it has a lot of teaching resources, and schools can share, their teaching materials, assessment, etc. And students can go in to do more practice. But now, through GovTech, which is a government setup, we have set up AI engines. So teachers can use the AI engine to create lesson plans. It saves them a lot of time. And lesson plans can be differentiated according to the different types of students you have, their ability cognitively as well as their learning styles. It can help teachers mark. It can tutor students. Like if you're a student, you say, I've got problems with quadratic equations. How do I deal with it? Then the AI can help you with simpler ones, and then So really, a lot of time is taken away from the teacher. So they're now spending less time on lesson planning and or marking, but they still put in a lot of time because of the relationship building and the student development aspects, right? And the well-being and also other admin work. So Singapore, I would say, has been quite strong on the forefront, even within the government sectors, in training different industries on how to harness AI in a safe way.
And teachers are ready
So teachers
to
have
adopt.
been adopting because it is a safe system within that student learning space. Whatever you do, you don't have to worry that the AI will be used to train its own model
it's
and
built
other people
by
have
the
access.
government.
Yeah, and it's within our intranet. You need sort of a password to get in, and only educators have that access.
ผมว่าพ่อแม่ทุกคนแหละไม่ใช่แค่ผมหรอกเนาะผมตัดเรื่องอื่นๆโลจิสติกอะไรออกไปก่อนแล้วกันเนาะผมว่าเราก็คงอยากได้โรงเรียนที่ทำให้ลูกเราออกมาเป็นคนที่ดีขึ้นทั้งในแง่ศักยภาพของเขาที่มีอยู่ให้มันเติบโตมากขึ้นใช่ไหมมีความสามารถในการทำสิ่งต่างๆดีขึ้นไม่ว่าจะเป็นการเรียนการทำงานหรือว่าอื่นๆอันที่สองซึ่งเป็นยุคที่สำคัญที่สุดในยุคนี้ของสิงคโปร์แล้วผมก็เห็นด้วยคือสองคำนะครับคือคำว่า character กับ value AI มันเก่งกว่าเราหมดอะแต่ AI มันไม่มี character มันไม่มี value คนเท่านั้นที่มี character กับ value โรงเรียนต้องเป็นคนช่วยสร้างแต่ไม่ได้บังคับนะไม่ใช่บังคับยัดใส่เข้าไปสร้างสภาพแวดล้อมที่เหมาะสมคุณครูคุณพ่อคุณแม่ทำให้เขามีคุณค่าที่เขายึดถือแล้วก็ด้านที่3คือโรงเรียนก็ควรจะทำให้เด็กอย่างน้อยเป็นตัวช่วยหนึ่งทำให้เขามีความสุขเป็นคนที่มีความสุขได้ไม่ว่าจะเจอกับสถานการณ์อะไรแต่อย่างน้อยเขารู้ว่าตัวเองต้องการอะไรในชีวิตและเขามีความสุขกับสิ่งที่เขาทำผมว่าเนี่ย3คุณสมบัติเนี้ยเป็นสิ่งที่จำเป็นแล้วก็ผมก็เชื่อว่าโรงเรียนที่ดร.ลิมกำลังปลุกปั้นเป็นที่ปรึกษาอยู่อย่างสิงคโปร์ Global International School เนี่ยที่ไปเปิดที่เมืองไทยในปี 2027 เดือนสิงหาคมเขาก็ตั้งใจจะใส่แนวความคิดเหล่านั้นแล้วก็เอา Singaporean style เนาะในแบบใหม่ออเทนติกจริงๆแล้วก็มันไม่ออเทนติกได้ไงมันอยู่ในแทบจะภายใต้ MOE อยู่แล้วอะคือ Ministry of Education อาจจะไม่ได้เป็นโรงเรียนของรัฐบาลนะครับต้องเข้าใจแต่ว่าใช้แนวคิดเนี้ยแล้วก็แนวคิดจาก Principal Academy Inc. เนี่ยมาปรับใช้ข้างใน
I heard that the new project that you are working on is SGIS. Tell me more about this. It's coming to Bangkok next year, right?
Yes, this is an interesting project because it was something that was birthed about 20 years ago when our current president, Mr. Tharman Shanmugaratnam, was Minister of Education. And he approached the Academy of Principals to say, we have this idea with EDB, our Economic Development Board, to make Singapore a global schoolhouse. So one idea of a global schoolhouse is, yes, you bring in some of the top names and you make Singapore an education hub. But the other is to export some of our know-how to other countries, especially the region, whom we can help to enhance. So the Academy of Principals Singapore started with some funding from the Economic Development Board to set up the Principals Academy Inc. Inc. as in, it's like a business thing that can go abroad. It's not just internal. And so we started to do a lot of work with maybe some countries that wanted additional training, etc. But we never set up a school. So I think now, after 20 years, Principals Academy is has got more opportunities and maybe the courage to step up, I would say, to do more than just training and consultation, right? So this is a kind of collaboration with a Thai conglomerate group, and we want to create a Singapore-style school that is a bit more authentically Singaporean, because I know that in Bangkok there are several
so
schools
many.
with the attachment of Singapore in front of their names.
What makes this school so unique and stand out from other Singaporean style schools?
Yeah, the uniqueness comes from the fact that we have a lot of commitment from the Principals Academy as well as the group of advisors who have been very experienced principals in all levels of the school system. And I think we're very keen to be able to share, to decontextualize for the context of Thailand, to see how the Singapore pedagogy and our standards and even our teaching resources can be adapted to make sure that there is value in what we're doing. And then we're also targeting the kind of affordability. And I say affordability because I'm thinking of the private international school sector. I can't say it is affordability for all of Thailand, right, to be fair, because Singapore labor is costly.
Yeah.
And moving across is also costly to another country. So I think for us, it's really a labor of love. We want to be able to add value. We want to see if we could really help to level up. And we want to have a model that people will have trust in because it's credible and because the people who are working on it are current educators who are still very involved in the Singapore system and evolving as it evolves with its policies and its new directions in teaching and learning or syllabuses, just as the world changes.
So can we talk about teachers' quality, teacher training? How do you train your teachers and get certified by some institution?
Okay, that's a good prompt because I know Thai parents are very concerned about quality of teachers because there are a lot of international schools and private schools and they take in teachers from all over the place, right? And I've advised international schools from different parts of the world. And the teachers, because they come from different systems, they don't speak the same language and they do things the way they do. If they teach IB, they want to teach IB even though they're in an A-level school or a IGCSE school. Or they might come from an American system that doesn't follow such a kind of rigid structure of key stages, right? So I think for SGIS, I would expect that all teachers would be doing some enhanced training with Principals Academy because, as I said, we've got lots of experienced principals and teachers and heads of department, and they would do training, and we would follow the kind of standards we expect, set by our Ministry of Education or our schools division or our curriculum planners. And we will make sure that they are able to first share the same language, know what exactly we're talking about when we say cooperative teaching or collaborative learning, or even in the use of AI, right? To have all the safeguards or the guardrails that we will put in. And then this enhanced training would be basic ones like safeguarding, basic counseling, facilitation skills, assessment, ability to set assessments and give feedback, and then teaching and learning in differentiated ways because, as I said, every brain is unique and we learn in different ways, right? How do they tap prior knowledge? How do they, have the concept taught to students and then have this repetition so that it stays, and then have students reflect and have students do metacognition, which is really understanding how they think. That's what I think the advantage of PAI's involvement is because of that kind of regular training we can put in and specialized training according to different learning needs of certain types of teachers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What will a typical day in school look like? I mean, just want to imagine how different
I think we have got
it
different levels, right? If you look at the preschool sector, and we have a very strong academic director and who has a lot of success in the Singapore system in the preschool sector, been very successful in integrating some of the interesting models of education such as Reggio, even a bit of Montessori, but also her own special programs for critical thinking, the learning of sciences and math. If you ask her, it's play-based, right, as a start. But it's also curiosity-driven to let students discover, but it's also surrounded in a way with surrounded by nurturing care and the love for the child. In terms of learning, I would say we can't really replace the love of a parent, but given the time the child is in school, to inculcate that love of learning and to enable kids to learn in a very comfortable, safe environment. So that is the primary part, and it will prepare them well for the math and science and the language acquisition later on at primary level. I think the Singapore-style education builds very strong foundation, right? Because most of us are not native English speakers, and yet we're number one for reading in English, more so than the Americans, the Australians, the English. And you wonder why and how, right? So I think we've sort of honed the arts of second language acquisition. And it's through a program that I helped to also launch when I was a curriculum specialist head for English language. It's called Stellar. And Stellar is when we do teaching of language through big book sharing. And then the teacher will go through the modeling of reading, phonics, etc. And then little books, storybooks, where students will go into their learning centers, and by differentiated abilities or interests, they might do different things. Some might tune into an interactive storytelling, some might read books, some might do some writing, and it's all guided reading and writing until they're able to produce their own. So it's very, very systematic and guided. And the same for Chinese language. Again, that's not our native language, right? Because I think 50% of Singaporeans speak English at home or Malay. Very few would speak standard Chinese, and very few would love Chinese, because Chinese is a very difficult language to learn if you don't have a home environment for that. Yeah. So we have got a Singapore Chinese Language Learning Center that produces a lot of research and resources, and even textbooks for international schools, based on the fact that they have shorter curriculum time. And I think we will use some of their methodologies for the teaching of Chinese. Yeah. And then Singapore math is very, very famous. I say it's famous because I'm advisor of a school in Sweden, okay? And they, in the past, had sent a small group of teachers every year to learn Singapore math. So I went to observe their classrooms. They're actually using this, transparency and modeling very, very religiously. They're now the top school in math in the whole of Sweden, in the whole of Sweden. I say whole of Sweden because they're top in Stockholm, which is really the city. So I can't expect that outside of the city you will have a top school in math. So I'm just saying I think they're top. It speaks a lot for Singapore math, right? Because Singapore math starts with helping children with manipulative visual representation, and then modeling. Again, it's visual. Manipulative means, they can deal with blocks and things like that. What's 15 minus 7? So you've got 15 blocks, you've got 7 blocks, you take away 7, you've got 8. So they can touch. Then they go into a second stage more of visualization. So you draw little boxes, then you shade out the 7. How much you have left? 8.
Wow.
But when you're in school, you're just told to do it, right? 15 minus 7, okay, you cross out 1, you got a 0, then you put the 1 over, then you take off the 7, you got the 8. That is abstract.
Yeah,
okay, so we go through that first, and then we go to the abstract. So it's conceptual learning.
Wow.
And also it's the belief that there are many right ways to an answer. 15 minus 7 need not be done this way, need not be done this way. It could be, you think of maybe 10 first, you take away the 10, you minus the 7, you got the 3, you 3 plus the 5, you got the 8. There are many ways.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very simply Singapore math, but it's more than that.
What is the best way to educate people today?
Okay, I don't think there is a best way. I think there is an appropriate way for each generation within each society. So when I was growing up, hard work meant a lot, diligence meant a lot, good teachers meant a lot. But now if you ask me if I've got a grandchild, right, in school, I don't think I depend so much on teachers anymore, right? Because the AI can be a good tutor.
Right.
Parents who are more educated can be good counselors and teachers. What do we need in school? Socialization, getting the kid to understand you live in a community with other people of other color and other languages, who speak other languages. Working together, solving problems, because there are unexpected problems that come up even within a school setting, and then more, in a broader scope, the community and in the nation. How do you critically think to solve community, social-based problems or even your own? But more importantly, the well-being of the child, right? How do you regulate your own emotions? How do you know when to not shout, but to resolve a conflict in a manner that would have a win-win outcome? So I think all these are important. I think schools will have to provide that kind of facilitation for a child to learn. And again, every brain is different. Every child learns differently. We have to accept that. So learning might have to be differentiated. Some might be better doing a story. Some might be better doing a quiz question. Some might be better coming up with a drawing. Some might be better just writing. So teachers now would have more time, I think, to cater to the different learning styles of a child and also look into the child's whole being. So a lot of people talk about holistic education, right? Holistic education to me means you have to know that the brain is not standalone, right? The head brain is connected to the rest of your body, your gut, your heart. If you're not in a good mood, can you learn? You can't. If you're hungry, would you learn?
No
you
way.
Can't. If you have to sit for exams, your stomach starts to have butterflies, right? How do you deal with that? If you're quarreling with your parents and all that, you would say, go to school for what? If there's no meaning and purpose, right? So spiritually as well, there's a latest McKinsey study from the Institute of Health, by McKinsey's Institute of Health, that analyzed about 41,000 people across 26 countries. And they correlate social, physical, emotional health with spiritual health. By spiritual, I don't mean religion or anything. It can be, but it need not be. Spiritual health is when someone believes that there is a purpose and meaning to my life, to the individual's life, and that there is a purpose beyond myself that I can be part of or contribute to. CEOs or professionals who have that tend to have higher scores on their physical, emotional, and social well-being.
Wow.
Right. So for children in schools, it's like, how do I connect to you as a person, not just your brain, not just what your brain can do on an exam, right? Because that's just cognitive. How do I build wisdom in you? How do I build empathy? How do I have you understand that there's a meaning and purpose and there's something larger than the reality that you're facing now, because you're going to step up into a future, step onto a platform where you can actually do more and feel better because you're contributing to either humankind or your nation or your community or your family in all scales. And I think that's what school can do. Schools can do in terms of harnessing AI, harnessing the different people, teachers or heads in school and parents' support to sort of build a child who is actually a happy achiever, meaning you can achieve not
Happy
because
achiever.
you do well, right? But you can achieve because you have a passion, you feel success in a certain area, and there are people who are supporting you in terms of which path you choose. And the happiness is not a kind of fun and joy kind of thing. Happiness comes when you have positive emotions, when you can deal with failures, you have resilience. Positive emotions come when you've got good relations, when you sense that there's meaning in what you're doing, even like going to school every day. It comes from little accomplishments that you have set for yourself and you've managed to achieve. And it comes from a physical body that's, healthy in terms of exercise, nutrition, sleep.
ยังไงเขาก็ยังเข้มงวดเขาคือก็คอนเซ็ปต์ที่เขาใช้คือ happy achiever ยังไงคุณก็ต้องเข้มงวดกับตัวเองต้องมีวินัยต้องพยายามมันไม่มีหรอกครับคนเหยาะแหยะที่เราจะประสบความสำเร็จอาจจะมีบ้างนะแต่ว่าเราคงไม่โชคดีแบบนั้นแต่เขาเพิ่มเรื่องของความสุขเข้าไปมากขึ้น
I don't want it to be a model of a Singapore school as Singapore schools are, because it's an international school. It's got a Thai flavor, and I think we can make something interesting out of it. But at the end of the day, if we say we want happy achievers, I like to tell people when I was a young principal, I would address a group of parents and I say, what do you want of your child? I want my child to be successful, they all say. Successful means what? Good results, go to a good university, get a good job, and then hopefully even be in the civil service, and then your career is sealed. Then they get married, they get children, they have their flat, HDB flat or condo, they're done for life. That was their idea of success. But by the time, 10 years later, when I hit other schools, and especially the big school that I talked about, Raffles Institution, I asked my 900 parents in front of me in an auditorium, what do you want of a child? I just want my child to be happy.
Right.
Great. You can be both happy and successful, I would say, these days. You can have both. Because the happiness comes when the child feels you're supported, he or she is supported. He or she can pursue the passion or interest that would drive them to want to do better. And then because of the passion, because of the support, because of the resources, he will be successful. Whether you want to be a tech entrepreneur, whether you want to be a race car driver, whether you want to be an entrepreneur or shop selling, you want to be a florist, whether you want to be an importer or lawyer or doctor, etc. You will be successful because you are well regulated, you have positive emotions, you've got good relationships, you have your target, and physically you do look after your own nutrition, health, sleep, etc. I once interviewed our Minister for Foreign Affairs. At that time, it's George Yeo. And Mr. George Yeo is very well regarded. He's a historian, he's a philosopher. He's very well regarded even now, talking about China and all. And I was in his room, and he had this little sculpture with him. And he said, this is sculpted by Brother McNally, who's one of Singapore's cultural medallion awardees who's passed on. And he said it is a mother and child, right? But it's made from a single piece of wood. So he says, I like this because this is sculptured from a piece of wood, but the sculptor must follow the grain of the wood. You can't cut across the grain, otherwise it'll be spoiled. So for all parents, I would say, you've got to let your child grow and follow, how he is wired, rather than force it to say, the brother is like this, why can't you be like this? Right? Your sister is so hardworking, why are you so playful?
Right.
You've got to follow the grain and nurture, cultivate him, and let him grow naturally. And that piece of wood will be beautiful, right?
Wow.
And that Michelangelo saying that, every piece of stone there is an angel waiting to be let out, right? A good sculptor sense that and can bring out the best in that piece of stone, marble, or piece of wood.
Wow.
You don't act against the inner wiring of a human being or a child.
Being a good sculpture.
You just follow it and
Follow
let
the
it
grain.
grow and support the growth. I think that would be my advice to all parents.
Wow, very beautiful.